base hit. That'll do it. Jimmy Paredes with the base hit to score the run. Peter Borges comes across, and the Phils walk it off. And Jimmy Paredes is going to be run over by his teammates over by second base. And they win it in the bottom of the 13th with a line drive base hit. Some fall ball in South Philadelphia. The fields across from Packer Avenue were packed this Saturday afternoon and inside Citizens Bank Park. Well, a little big league BP as the Marlins and Phillies get set for Game 2 of a 3-game series. It's Weekends with Schmidt, presented by AT PHI Markets. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Phillies Baseball alongside Mike Schmidt and Ben Davis. I'm Greg Murphy in for Tom McCarthy tonight. Well, it took 4 hours and 43 minutes for the Phils to get a win last night. They'll look to get another W tonight against these Marlins and clinch the season series. And to do so, Ben, they're going to hand the ball to Jeremy Hellickson, who could be making his last start this season here at Citizens Bank Park.
It very well could be if they stick with the current rotation. The Phillies fans have had a lot to cheer about with Jeremy Hellickson this season. He's been so consistent. Take a look at his last start against the Buccos. He's not an overpowering pitcher, but what he does, he changes speeds. He believes in every pitch that he throws, whether that be his fastball, the cutter, the curveball, or the very, very good changeup. He can get a multitude of outs with all those pitches, and he did a fine job against these Buccos. Now, he does have great career numbers against the Fish, 2-2 with a 3.17 ERA. I look for him to go out and dominate again this evening.
When the Phillies went out and got Jeremy Hellickson in the offseason, they wanted an anchor in that rotation. He has been just that. You take a look at his numbers before the All-Star break and after. Consistency right on through.
Yes, and one thing that really sticks out to me is his strikeouts. Not known to be a strikeout pitcher, but his strikeouts have accumulated, already surpassing the amount that he's had last season. So he has been very, very good, and that's what you look out of your opening day starter.
Absolutely. He has been a steadying presence indeed in that rotation, and a steadying presence out on the field for the Phils on a daily basis has been their shortstop, Freddie Galvis, Mike, who not only has played almost flawless defense this year, but his offense is getting there as well.
That's amazing. If the offense can catch up with the confidence of the defense, you got yourself a great, great young player. He is a great young player right now defensively, but he's developing as an offensive player. What's not to like about Freddie Galvis? Durable, especially. Durability is one thing I like. Here's his stats over the last, well, I guess his career as a player for the Phillies. Short season the first year, 151 games played. Last year had a great year, 263, 7 home runs, 50 RBIs. And this year, we're looking at a guy that maybe can come up with 20 home runs and 70 RBIs. And how about a Gold Glove, Murph?
That would be all right to boot, and I certainly think he's got a chance at pulling in that hardware when it's all said and done. He has been good, and he has been out there giving 100% each and every night for the Phils. Well, baseball in swing here in South Philadelphia. We've got a game tonight here at Citizens Bank Park. Jose Urena for the Marlins, Jeremy Hellickson for the Phils. Lineups and first pitch when we come back. Phillies baseball is brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. By Toyota. Tested, trusted Toyota. Toyota, let's go places. By Citizens Bank. The next time you have a question about money, don't keep it to yourself. Ask a citizen. And by Independence Blue Cross. Live fearless. Learn more at IBX.com. for baseball as he makes his way out. The crowd is gathered at the rail here at Citizens Bank Park as warm-up pitches are just about finished. Jeremy Hellickson taking the hill, getting ready to start once again here for the Phils. And today's Marlins starting lineup is brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. Here's Don Mattingly's lineup. D. Gordon will lead it off. Ichiro Suzuki, Martin Prado, followed by Christian Yelich, Marcelo Ozuna, and Justin Bour. JT Realmuto will do the catching. He'll bat seventh, followed by the shortstop Miguel Rojas. And pitching, it'll be Jose Urena, and they will face the Phils' Jeremy Hellickson, who is steps to the mound at 11-9 and delivers his first pitch. D. Gordon, a line drive into right field, and that's in for a base hit. So one pitch and a base runner already as we get things started here in South Philadelphia. Here you see Jeremy Hellickson's numbers, 11-9 guys, 3.76 ERA. And Ben, you talked about it in the open. He's been very consistent all season long, really just what the Phils were hoping for.
He's been excellent. Very good numbers against these fish. 2-2 at 3.17 ERA. 4 pitches, nothing overpowering, but that changeup is what sets him apart.
So he'll go to work against Ichiro Suzuki, who was 0 for 3 last night after entering the game in the 6th inning for Giancarlo Stanton. Gordon stops and starts down there at first. First pitch is outside for a ball. It's 1-0.
Tough little assignment here for Hellickson. I mean, you have two good left-handed hitters that'll spray the ball all over the ballpark in the 1-2 spots, and then Prado. I mean, I am so impressed with this guy, Prado. It's unbelievable. And Yelich, then another left-handed hitter that'll spray it all over.
This is a tough Marlins lineup top to bottom. We've talked about it, you know, each time we see them, and they've got some guys that can come off the bench as well and offer some pop. So that is why they're still in the mix when it comes to the National League wild card. And there goes D. Gordon leaving from first. The throw from A.J. Ellis is not in time. And D. Gordon has another stolen base. He's number 22 on the season.
You know, I was amazed last night watching the game. Morgan, how many times he throw over that one at bat with Gordon, and then he just stole a base easily after about 6 throws over.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Larry Anderson about that today, and you know, he said it was almost as if you know, he started to lose a little bit of focus on the batter. He was so worried about D. Gordon, but that's what happens when you have speed on the base paths. Let's take a look at the National League wild card current standings. Miami lost another game last night with their 13th inning loss here in Philadelphia. So they're 5 back and they're running out of time. But as Don Mattingly said, until there's an E next to their name in the box score, they're going to go out there and think they've got a chance.
I think they just finished a review with Larry Boa. He decided not to review it, and we saw the replay, and it looked like a pretty easy call, a safe call.
So D. Gordon's over there at second base. Count is 2-0 to Ichiro Suzuki. Slow pitch, he bunts at it, and it's foul. So 2-1 now to Ichiro.
Well, if you ever had a guy at home plate that has pretty good ability to advance a runner, you got one here with the bunt, with the ground ball to the right side. Contact hitter.
Doesn't appear to be slowing down at all. Ichiro Suzuki, of course, got his 3,000th hit earlier this year and keeps on adding on to that total. 2-1 pitch, swings through that one. It's 2-2. Hellickson has his sign from A.J. Ellis. Just a 2-2 pitch and he steps off.
Yeah, one of Hellickson's strong points, of course, is getting batters to roll over, you know, with his deception. Speed changes. He doesn't play here. He doesn't want him to roll over.
Yes, it's a good point. 2-2 pitch. Popped up.
He got what he wanted.
Yeah, over by third base. Franco makes the catch, and that's the first out of the inning. So nice job by Jeremy Hellickson to get Ichiro Suzuki to pop up the third base. 1 out, and that will bring up Martin Prado. So it's a perfect time for our Nissan Keys to the Game. Mike, what do you got?
Well, mine as a viewer of the game last night, I saw a lot of at-bats where guys just weren't ready on fastballs in good fastball counts. You know, they just didn't seem like I don't know whether they were looking in or what, but I saw a lot of really good fastballs to hit in fastball counts that were taken for strikes. So I like to see him get on that fastball, get back to hitting that fastball early in the count.
First pitch to Prado is over for a strike.
As he takes the fastball right down the middle.
We're okay if they do.
Yeah.
That's totally fine. Yeah.
I'd love to see Jeremy maybe pick up the tempo a little bit out on the mound. But not get away from that game plan. I like him when he's a little quicker in between pitches.
Yeah, but that's the old, would you say, American League style?
Yeah, for sure.
From the stretch, the 0-1 pitch is outside for a ball. It's 1-1 to Martin Prado.
Now, as a catcher, if you sense that he was laboring, thinking too much, would you go out and tell him?
Yes. In a minute.
What are you saying? Just pick it up,
I say,
buddy?
yeah, just, hey.
Hey, let's go.
Let's get a sign.
Speed things up.
I said, I don't want you out here thinking too much.
Yeah. People are falling asleep up there.
Yeah. And that's it. Definitely. You know from being out in the field, Mike, if a pitcher takes his time, he's a little sleepy out in the field.
Ooh, that's in the back of Martin Prado, so he'll take the free pass. Head on down to first base. I don't think Hellickson was trying to do that as he puts Martin Prado on. So runners on first and second now with one out. And that'll bring up Christian Yelich.
Well, you know, how many did he get last night, Prado?
Three. Two
and
doubles.
hit a couple balls hard, 2 doubles, and just he's so comfortable up there. I mean, I not on purpose, but I tell you what, he wasn't going to leave that over the inside corner.
No.
So Christian Yelich steps in from the left side. He was 0 for 5 last night. Looked a little bit lost at the plate. Phillies know what kind of damage this guy can do. Batting .301 on the season, 18 home runs. Runners lead off first and second. First pitch to Yelich is a little bit low for a ball. It's 1-0.
Mike, do you ever go 0 for 5 in a game and get intentionally walked your 6th time up? That's what happened to Yelich last night.
Hellickson looks in, gets his sign. D. Gordon leads off first. Prado off second. Prado off of first.
You know,
Gordon looks him back.
Maybe I don't know. I mean, my memory's too far gone to remember one like that.
One-0 pitch. Ground ball towards second. This could be 2. Hernandez to Galvis. Over to Joseph in time for the 4-6-3 double play. There you have it, Mike. Got Christian Yelich to roll over on one to get the inning-ending double play. So the Phils get out unscathed in the top of the first. We'll head to the bottom of the first. No score in South Philadelphia. To get the offense going early in this one. against the Miami Marlins, and the Phil's starting lineup is brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. Cesar Hernandez leads off, followed by Roman Quinn and Odubel Herrera. Tommy Joseph was a late add as Ryan Howard was scratched. We'll talk about that in a minute. He'll bat fourth. Maikel Franco, Freddie Galvis, Aaron Altair is out in right field batting seventh. A.J. Ellis is doing the catching, and pitching is Jeremy Hellickson. And they will face Jose Urena, who is 4-6 for the Marlins this year. He has started 9 games for them, appeared in 25 total with an ERA of 4.89. We've seen the Phillies a couple of times this year, had some mixed success, and the first pitch to Cesar Hernandez is over for a strike.
Urena sit about 95, very, very good arm, but over his last 5 starts, a 2.30 ERA. He's been very, very good.
And that one is punched through the hole between the shortstop and the third baseman, so Cesar Hernandez leads off the game with a base hit.
That's a beautiful thing right there. Just poking one the opposite way. You know, those don't always find a hole, but that's definitely a good start to his night.
So he's a leadoff base runner. Roman Quinn will step to the plate. Roman had a rough night last night. He was 0 for 6, 3 strikeouts. But all in all, so far up here in the big leagues, as his manager said, he certainly has made a good first impression on the folks that are watching him as he continues to develop.
I have not seen that much of Roman, just on TV a little bit over the last 10 days, in spring training a little bit, but what I've seen is a young man that seems to have a great presence at home plate. You know, we always talk about looking hitterish up there. He does. He you know, he looks like a very confident young man.
He certainly has not looked overwhelmed at all since being called up. The Reading season was over. Arrived in the clubhouse, seemed very comfortable from the get-go. Has been in the lineup every single night since he's been here, which I would imagine helps a little bit. Split all 3 outfield positions as well. Pitch is lined, and that one will go foul down the left field line. So it's 2-1 to Roman Quinn.
You know what? Was it Kohler last night?
Tom Kohler.
Tom Kohler, a nasty curveball, doesn't he?
Hard.
He's got a good one.
Hard curveball.
You know, I'm thinking, well, how can Roman Quinn strike out 3 times in 6 at-bats? I mean, you know, anything can happen. He's very unusual for that to happen to him, and that, I don't know how many of them were against Kohler, but I watched him face Kohler a couple times, and he did have just a devastating curve.
The only one of those strikeouts came against Kohler. He struck out twice late in the game last night as well. 2-1 pitch is outside for a ball. It's 3-1. Odubel Herrera waits on deck.
One thing speed at first will make a pitcher do is speed up his delivery. I hope Lance Barrett is taking note. Urena's coming very close to balking.
And what is a line shot right at the shortstop, Rojas. And Roman Quinn is retired. Cesar Hernandez didn't stray too far from first. So, well, today's Lucky McDonald's Phillies home run jackpot contestant is John Sengia from Baseball Town, Reading, Pennsylvania. If the Phillies hit a home run in the game, John will win $100. McDonald's Mix and Match any 2 for just $2.50 on McDonald's McPick 2 menu.
Good luck, John.
Bob was a little late. A little late in ducking on that line drive. Perhaps he was ducking for the throws. Bob Davison over there. Lance Barrett's behind the plate tonight. Dale Scott over at first, the crew chief. And Dan Iasonia behind the plate last night is over at third as that one is ripped into the gap, and Odubel Herrera is thinking 2. Here comes Cesar Hernandez rounding third. The throw to home, and it's not in time. Nice base running by Cesar Hernandez, and he comes all the way around to score on the RBI double by Odubel Herrera.
Speed, baby, speed. And give Sammy credit. You know, he gave him plenty of notice coming to third base, pumping that arm. We'll see it on the replay. Odubel get after that first fastball.
That's it. That's it.
They make a nice relay, but we didn't see Sammy there, but he had him going halfway to third base. He had him scoring on that ball.
I mean, that doesn't even come close to hitting the warning track. Not even close,
Yeah.
but great call, Mike. Sammy gave Cesar plenty of time to know that he was going to keep busting all the way to home plate.
Yeah, Yelich had picked that ball up, and Hernandez was about 7 feet, 10 feet from third base, but yet he's still able to come around and score. So nice job all the way around. Phil's taking an early lead, 1-0 here in the bottom of the first. Tommy Joseph is the batter. It's 0-1 to him. As I mentioned in the lineups, originally Ryan Howard was scheduled to play first base and back cleanup, but a little knee soreness is going to keep the big piece out of this game. That one is blooped into right field, and that's going to fall in for a hit. Odubel Herrera read that perfectly, so he moves up to third base, thought about coming home, but it's a bloop single for Tommy Joseph, and the runners are at the corners.
It's caught in no man's land out here. Even if he catches this ball, he's still going to be out at second. So if you're going to make that break, you might as well just go ahead all the way.
Yeah, you're right. I think that was, well, I call it poor base running. You either got to hang close to second so you don't get doubled off if he does catch it, or if he does, that was the problem with it. Now he's on third base with 1 out, which is where he wanted him. But I do think he strayed way, as you see right here on the replay, he strayed way too far off the bag, because Suzuki's a heck of a right fielder, and he could have came in and closed on that ball and caught it easily. Inning over, right?
One thing Ichiro will not do is dive face forward. He always slides.
Yeah.
Good to see Tommy Joseph throw another little knock in there, starting to swing the bat well.
Now bring up Maikel Franco with 1 out. 1-0 count to him. Big swing and a miss. It's 1-1 to Maikel Franco, who slid down into the 5-hole. Didn't play last night, or didn't start last night. Manager Pete Buchanan saying he just wanted to give him a mental day off because looked a little bit out of sorts offensively. So 1-1 pitch. Check swing. No swing, says Dale Scott. So it's 2-1 to Maikel Franco. Phil's looking to add another one here in the bottom of the first.
Is there any doubt in your mind that this pitch is going to be a slider? He throws a sinker. I would think, you know, and I know this may sound crazy, but I would think like most of the Latin guys know each other, or have heard of them, or watched them, or played in winter ball against them. You know, the word gets out, and you know, I would think in this situation here, you got to make him hit the breaking ball, right? He just missed one by 3 feet.
You would think that, and
since he did, he's thrown him 2 fastballs.
Yeah, and both fastballs inside. Now, I think he's struggled recently down to 248 batting average because he has not used the right side of the field. But yet they're still trying to pound him in. I think the pitchers have noticed that. They're making a concerted effort to get him out away, not Urena.
There's lots of room on the right side of the diamond if he were to poke one the other way, but instead he drives one down the left field line.
Explain that to me.
Can't. That's going to go up against the wall. Herrera will score easily. And cruising into third is Tommy Joseph. And into second is Maikel Franco with a double. The second double of the inning for the Phillies, and the Phillies take a 2-0 lead.
Well, I love it. You know, Maikel Franco just smoked a double over third base, and you know, we got a 2-0 lead now. But let's go back to a discussion we were having. He misses a slider by 2 feet. Since that slider, he threw him 3 straight fastballs. Now, who's calling these pitches?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I haven't seen him hit a ball to the right side of second base in a month. Right? But yet, you know, he's covering that pitch inside. But yet they triple up in there.
I'm saying, I mean, he looks like a guy that wants to pull. He's kind of pulling off the ball, bailing when you throw the slider. He sure doesn't look like somebody that's going to smoke a ball up the middle or the right, you know, to right field on a breaking ball. All right, well, then let's cure that. Let's just show him 3 sinkers inside.
And let him turn on one. That's what he did. You see the conversation in the Phillies dugout between A.J. Ellis and Odubel Herrera and Andres Blanco, perhaps talking about the base running, as you guys pointed out. A.J. Ellis maybe giving some thoughts on all of that. There's also a conversation out on the mound for the Marlins, as Jose Urena will look to settle down and try to get the Phils out of the inning without any more runs being pushed across. They're going to walk Freddie Galvis, and they're going to pitch to Aaron Altair. Load up the bases. Still with 1 out.
Well, I can tell you right now, if Aaron Altair has been watching what's going on, I would think that he would be telling himself, I'm going to have to put a breaking ball in play up the middle, somewhere up in the middle. You know, I can't be looking to pull in this at bat because he just came out to talk to the pitcher from the dugout. Probably said, what we're talking about right here. Now you got a right-hand hitter up here who can smoke a fastball. He just had his fastball hit as hard as it can be hit. Wouldn't you think that there's going to be a diet of off-speed pitches and sliders in this at bat?
I would think so.
One would think. As the infield creeps in a little bit, Aaron Altair swings through that
sinker.
one.
I'm wrong again. Let's start off with a sinker.
Bases are loaded with Phillies. Tommy Joseph over there at third. Maikel Franco at second. Freddie Galvis, after being intentionally walked, down there at first. Bases are loaded. So 1 to Aaron Altair. Urania has his sign. 0-1 pitch. On the outside corner. It's 0-2.
If you're confident in your catcher right here, you bounce one of those, right?
The 0-2 pitch. Swing and a miss, and he got him. So Aaron Altair goes down swinging. And that'll be the second out of the inning here in the bottom of the first. That'll bring up A.J. Ellis, who will try to do a little bit more damage before this frame is over for the Phillies.
Well, that's just not Aaron Altair. If you ask me, he should learn from that going into next year. Over anxious with the bases. I've been there, done that, and he had 3 pitches in that at bat. First one was a ball, then a nice pitch to hit that he took, and then the one that struck him out. So that's just a over anxious at bat.
Well, A.J. Ellis will try and pick him up if he can. He steps in. There you see his numbers with the bases loaded in his career. 1-0 pitch is ground ball inside the bag at third base. That's going to score some runs. 1 run is across. Here comes Maikel Franco. He will score. Freddie Galvis is being waved around. Here is no throw at home, and 3 runs are across. A bases clearing double for A.J. Ellis. That's picking up your teammate.
Yes, it is. It's so nice to see. Big hitting early in the game. Hellickson a little room to breathe out there.
I think that's an exact case of a catcher, a veteran catcher at that, realize the situation and just simply watching the ball game. They want to go back inside again. Exactly what they did to Maikel, what they did to Aaron Altair. That's a veteran picking that sequence up and attacking early.
Well, that'll bring up Jeremy Hellickson in the bottom of the first, and well, that's never a bad thing when the pitcher's batting in the bottom of the first. So he'll step in with a runner on second. The first pitch to Hellickson is over for a strike. 5 runs across here in the bottom of the first for the Phils. Ellis takes his lead off second. Big swing and a miss by Hellickson. It's 0-2.
Can we call timeout? I got to fill in all these squares.
I'm doing the same thing. I don't know how to react here.
It's awesome.
I'll have to get you guys a stamp or something. The 0-2 pitch in the dirt. It's 1-2.
I got to color in 5 squares in the first inning.
Well, Mike, there's your key to the game.
That's
Attack
right.
that fastball.
Now we just need Jeremy to listen to you, Ben, and we'll be in good shape. 1-2 pitch. And it's over for a called third strike. So Hellickson is a strikeout victim, but boy, oh boy, the damage has been done here in the bottom of the first. 5 runs across for the Phillies. They hand their starter a nice lead after 1. Park, but the Phils already with a 5-0 lead. They got 5 hits in the bottom half of that first and have built a little cushion for Jeremy Hellickson, which is always a good thing for your starting pitcher. The big blow came off the bat of the catcher, A.J. Ellis, who tonight is contributing on the field. But Leslie, you know what? He's been contributing off the field since arriving in Philadelphia as well.
Yeah, Murph, for those of us who are around the team a lot, I think it's pretty common knowledge that he's unmatched in terms of preparation. So I asked A.J. to take me through his routine. He said before each series, he spends around 2 hours looking at video, breaking down even sequences and tendencies of the hitters. He takes about 2 to 3 minutes per hitter in terms of looking at the video, and then he writes it all down. He'll look at first pitch, he'll look at middle counts, he looks at 2 strikes, anything that he can see that's a tendency with that hitter. But the writing it down part seems to be the big difference for the younger catchers. Cameron Rupp said that that's where he's really learned to take it a step further. He used to watch video, but now he writes everything down so he can refer back to it. And then on days like this, he'll then look and see what the other team does against Hellickson and maybe how the tendencies change against that particular pitcher. Pete McCann said he's never seen a pitcher that's more prepared. He has a sheet with all sorts of detail on it for every single game.
No, he is a student of the game first and foremost, and you know that by talking to him for 5 minutes, because he will sit and talk about the game with anybody who would like to, and we've all gotten a chance to do that as that pitch is over for a strike. Marcell Ozuna steps in there, and you know what? You know, Ben, you were a catcher. Obviously, preparation is a big part of it, but what A.J. Ellis is able to bring to the table really seems to be a step above what a lot of guys can bring.
And it's Ozuna grounds a ball to Michael Franco, the first out of the inning. But it is. It's really a science. It's picking up technique. Yes, you have scouting reports, and that's basically going over how guys get themselves out or where they get their hits. But sometimes it goes a little bit farther than that, and the fact that, you know, just because you have a scouting report doesn't mean you always have to stick to it. You can read hitters up there. I think a catcher can read a swing better than anybody, and knowing exactly how to get guys out is really a science, and you have to stick to what that pitcher has on a particular day.
As Justin Bour steps in with 1 out here in the top of the second. Hellickson gets his sign from A.J. Ellis. First pitch is a little bit inside for a ball. And Leslie, since his arrival in Philadelphia, you know what? We were all a little surprised when the trade went down. Certainly he was surprised, but he's starting to feel very comfortable here, and who knows? Maybe we'll see him here again next year.
Yeah, he said that everything he's done since he's gotten here has made him feel more and more comfortable with the idea that he could come back. He's going to be a free agent for the first time this offseason. He said he knows his numbers, his stats are not there, but he does think that hopefully teams will see him as a guy who can contribute. And he talked about his evolution as a catcher. He said, I used to be a catcher in the big leagues, but I wasn't a big league catcher until I worked with Brad Ausmus. And he realized how much Brad taught him, and he's doing that now, giving it back and being a teacher for these young catchers here.
He's got to be fun. He's got, as Bour flies out to center field, but he's got to be fun to catch. Hellickson?
Yeah,
absolutely. A little bit of everything, right where you want it. Inside, outside. But I was going to say, Ben, I hear all that stuff you were saying about working with the pitchers and tendencies of hitters and all that, but generally, doesn't it all always go back to high and tight, low and away?
That's it. That's it.
It's a simple game, really. Well, 2 quick outs here for Jeremy Hellickson, exactly what he was looking for after the big bottom of the first for his offense. Shutdown inning against this team. JT Realmuto steps in. He's 2 for 6 last night in the game. He had an RBI last night as well, batting .313 on the season. 10 home runs, 44 RBIs. 1-0 pitch to Realmuto.
But you can read a hitter. I mean, say the scouting report to JT Realmuto is likes the ball up and out over the plate. Well, say you throw a pitch there by mistake and you see him really pull off a ball. You might want to go back out there again and just see, maybe he's just not seeing that pitch well and continues to pull off it. Just because it's not part of the scouting report doesn't mean that that's not a way you can get him out that evening.
Well, the pitcher has the best view of the hitter, and if a pitcher, which helps, is a little bit of a student of hitting as well as big time student of pitching, you should you should be able to tell when a hitter is sort of covering the plate, or you know, I mean, somebody that is not pulling off the ball, somebody that He's keeping the shoulder in. You can see that shoulder flying from the mound. You've been in both places, right?
Yes.
As a pitcher and the catcher.
1-2 pitch, swing and a miss, and he got him. So Jeremy Hellickson comes back in the top of the second and puts the Marlins down 1-2-3. So we'll head to the bottom of the second. Phils holding on to a 5-0 lead. Sunday at 1:35, it's ShopRite Partners in Caring Food Drive and Block Party. Fans are encouraged to bring non-perishable food for donation to benefit Phil Abundance. Citizens Bank Way will have a block party from 11:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Special appearances by the guy to my right, the Hall of Famer Mike Schmidt, the Philly Fanatic, and Philadelphia Zoo on Wheels. It's the Phillies and Marlins this weekend. Fans who attend the block party will receive a free ShopRite reusable grocery bag while the supplies last as well. All the details are on Phillies.com. Be a fun afternoon at the ballpark tomorrow. It's been a fun evening tonight so far as we are in the bottom of the second. Cesar Hernandez is at the plate, and he punches one to third base. Prado up with it in the first out of the inning. Tried to do the same thing he did in his first at bat.
Right, Cesar tried the same. Didn't quite hit it as hard as he did the first one. Prado makes a nice little pick. Prado just kind of, I think he moved 2 or 3 steps to his left too before the at-bat.
He did. This is where you cannot go to sleep if you're the Phillies offense.
Right.
Keep your foot on his neck.
Roman Quinn fouls that one into the sweet level. Roman lined out to the shortstop in his first at bat. 1 pitch is upstairs for a ball. It's 1-1. Yeah, Ben, your point is a good one. We've seen that time and time again when the Phils do jump out to an early lead. Oftentimes, that's it. You know, we'll go 5 or 6 innings without generating much offense at all, and teams can creep back into it. There's lots of baseball still to play.
You have to, because every at-bat does count, and this is a good hitting Marlins lineup.
It's inside for a ball. It's 3-1 now to Roman Quinn. From the windup, the 3-1 pitch inside, low for a ball. He walks him. So Roman Quinn is a base runner here in the bottom of the second. That'll bring up Odubel Herrera. Last time the Phils scored 5 runs in the first inning was back in July 28th versus Atlanta. That guy remembers. He said, I was just thinking about that. So Roman Quinn will lead off first. Odubel Herrera will step in, doubled in his first at bat. Time is called. Ring is giving some thoughts to Roman Quinn over there at first.
And that's a good thing. Call timeout when he's holding the ball. Don't stand in there and have having break up your rhythm as a hitter. He's trying to break up the base runner's rhythm. But you got to get the time out before you back out of the batter's box.
Delivers that pitch, and it's over for a strike. Well, this was just an inning ago. Odubel Herrera.
Good piece of hitting there. He just attacks that first pitch fastball. He really has had some better swings recently. That average up to 284 now.
Pete Mackanin was talking about that today. Part of the reason why he has flip-flopped Herrera and Franco, moved Herrera up in the lineup, dropped Franco down a little bit, is because of how well Odubel's been swinging the bat of late. 9 of 15 on this homestand coming into tonight, so 10 of 16. And that one is back up the middle, but played perfectly by the Marlins. They will not get to. They get the force out at second on Roman Quinn, but kudos to Herrera for getting down the line quickly. He'll be safe at first.
Once again, speed prevents the double play. Keeps the inning alive.
He did get out of the box very well. Boom. He's gone. He's on the move.
Marlins had that played perfectly with Rojas down there in short. He didn't even have to move. So there's 2 outs. Tommy Joseph is the batter. And he takes that pitch over for a strike. Joseph singled in his first at bat. Scored.
Tommy Joseph looking a little rugged there on the plate with the starter beard.
He's trying to catch up to our partner over there.
I grew it. And
last night.
Mike said I can keep it. So that's so if Mike Schmidt said I can keep it, then I'm keeping it.
Let's be honest. If Meg says you can keep it, then you can keep it. That's the way it works. Count is even to Tommy Joseph. Odubel thinks about going, and it stops, and the ball is low, so it's a ball. 2-1. Now to Tommy Joseph.
I like to see Odubel sit tight as the light comes on, probably to show off your beard here in the booth.
Very astute, Mike. Oh, he turns on that one, but that is going to be foul. He sent it a long way into Ashburn Alley, but just a long strike. There's the beard. I think Tommy's a couple days behind you in terms of his growth.
Yeah, just a couple.
It's looking good.
I did trim it up yesterday, though. I did.
It's a hunting season coming.
That's right. That's right. Actually started today.
2-2 pitch. Not swung on. Hit deep in left center field. That going back, and that is gone over the wall at the 409 mark. Tommy Joseph, number 20 on the season. It's a 2-run shot, and the Phils now lead it 7-0.
That young man's had a heck of a year. If you count his, his minor league start, 20 up here plus how many? I don't know. Carl might know how many in the minor leagues.
He had 8 in the minor leagues before getting called up here. When opportunity knocks, be home. Not scheduled to be in the lineup. Ryan Howard has a bad knee. Tommy Joseph inserted into that lineup. Already 2 for 2 with 2 RBIs.
Yeah, I think the Marlins are going to take a look to make sure that that ball did indeed clear on its own. From our look, it certainly looked like it did. The fan out there did catch it with the arms outstretched, but not out over the railing. So it will indeed count. And it's a 2-run shot for Tommy Joseph. And with that home run, John Seguia, Reading, Pennsylvania, you've won $100 courtesy of Tommy Joseph.
Way to go, John.
Yeah, here's his swing. Now watch Tommy go down with his head. See, there's no shoulder flying at all. I don't think, and by the way, I think Franco wanted to hit that ball right back up the middle.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's what he did.
The Marlins can't be too happy. Their best hitter got drilled in the first inning, and then the Phillies come back with 5, now 7.
What I liked about that swing on Tommy Joseph, it's one thing to go down and actually get a baseball. You said he went down there with his head, went down with his hands. But to go down that far, make contact, but to still get that extension through it. Usually it's easy to get extension on the pitch that's up. But to go down and get extension on the ball that's down in the zone, it's a lot tougher.
Well, take a look at this list. Rookie home run leaders all time. And Tommy Joseph is climbing up the list for the Phils. 20 now as a rookie. And you should, keep in mind it's been half the season for Tommy Joseph.
Tommy have, what? Did he have 300 at-bats? I could look at the stats, but I know you got them right in front of you. Somewhere in that range.
So you watch how he gets the contact, but he finishes this way.
Oh, yeah. That ball's long gone
It's
by the time
just,
it comes up and out.
Whew.
He's 286 at bats, so he's creeping towards that 300 mark. And Ben, you touched on it. Wasn't supposed to even be in the lineup. How often do we see that? A guy gets a chance to start and does some damage. Tommy Joseph certainly has 20 home runs for the young man. I think you asked the question, how many did he have in the minor leagues, Mike? I think he had 8 or 9 before being called up.
I think he had 8.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
So 28 home runs between the two levels. Freddie Galvis is the batter now as Raquel Franco leads off first. Galvis swings through that one. It's 1-2.
Sad day today for me. My Bobcats got beat by Tennessee 28-19.
Lots of college football. Big swing and a miss by Freddie Galvis, and that'll be the third out of the inning. But not before the Phils are able to add a couple of more runs here in the second inning. A long one off the bat of Tommy Joseph, his 20th of the season. And it was a beautiful swing as he went down and got it. Deep to left center field. Christian Yelich, well, he had no chance. It clears the ballpark. The Phils have a 7-0 lead. Well, it's the moment we've all been waiting for. Time now for the Jeep Stump the Fans trivia question. Log on to Phillies.com. Go to the fans section for all the information. Please submit your answer on the subject line. The question is, guys, who was the first Puerto Rican-born player to throw a no-hitter? That answer will be revealed later in the game. As we start the third inning, Jeremy Hellickson back out on the mound for the Phils, and he starts Miguel Rojas off with a strike.
Time for the hints.
No. Murph doesn't give any.
I don't give hints.
Really?
No. I tried last night.
Come on, Murph.
I feel like Google gives you guys enough hints, Watch that guy over there on his computer.
What are you insinuating, Greg?
Well,
has to be Puerto Rican, not just Latin.
Puerto Rican. Yes. I will tell you this. This is the hint I'll give you. He is the second youngest player in Major League Baseball to throw a no-hitter. I don't know if that helps you or not. The 0-2 pitch to Rojas is outside.
Jotto.
Hey, Ben, your buddy's back.
Reppin' right there.
There he is.
Go Friars.
Malvern Preparatory School for Boys, Malvern. 1-2 pitch. Line drive right back at Hellickson off his glove. He chases it down and flips it to Tommy Joseph in time for the out. So Jeremy Hellickson showing why he's won a Gold Glove at his position before. Couldn't snare it on the line drive, but able to make the play. The most popular way to follow Phillies baseball is with MLB.com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball. Enjoy live look-ins, highlights, game days, scores, StatCasts, live radio broadcasts, and more. Get MLB.com at bat on your favorite devices right now.
For those watching home, that is what is on my computer currently.
MLB at bat. You're right.
Well, the fans out there are tweeting me that they need a hint.
Well, I gave you a hint. How much more do you need?
Right-handed or left-handed?
Is that guy's tweeting you right now? Right-handed or left-handed? I'd have to check. Right-handed, I believe. Jose Urena, or it's being pinch hit for Destin Hood, is the pinch hitter. So Urena's day is done early. 1-1 right now to Hood. So Urena goes just 2 innings, allows 7 hits and 7 runs, all of them earned. 2 walks as well. 49 pitches. So after his best outing of the year against the Dodgers, where he went 8 2/3 in his last start, Jose Urena's day is over. Swing and a miss by Destin Hood. It's 1-2 to the pinch hitter. The 1-2 pitch. Ground ball, shortstop. Galvis. 2 outs.
Yeah, Freddie Galvis mentioned the Gold Glove for Freddie. That's a tough one to win the first time. I tell you, you got to unseed somebody that's kind of got what do you call it, a priority guy. I mean, I won it a few times, probably more on my offensive production than that in my actual. I won it one time with 25 errors.
Is that right?
Yeah. But Freddie should get a lot of votes. Hopefully, he'll get enough to actually receive it. He's had a fantastic year defensively.
He really has. And the second half of the season has been even better than the first, and the first was pretty special. So, big difference from a year ago, and that was one of the things he talked about in the offseason. He said he wanted to be better in the field. He knew he could be, and well, that is a goal that he has reached. On the outside corner to D. Gordon. 0-2 now.
Watch how good he gets defensively as he starts to become a better offensive player too. I just think that all-around confidence will go up. To start to see himself as one of the best players in the league, rather than just, you know, a good player on his team.
I was having that discussion with the reporters in the dugout today.
0-2 pitch. It's fouled at the plate.
I think it comes down to Freddie and Brandon Crawford, the Giants. Crawford's got a very good shot at it. He's very dynamic at shortstop as well.
Well, if he doesn't win it this year, you got to believe he's going to win it one of these years, and probably win it a couple of times before his career is over. Here's the 0-2 pitch. Inside for a ball. It's 1-2.
Remember years ago, D. Gordon standing at shortstop before he was a professional player here with his father, kind of watching him take some ground balls during batting practice.
Inside as well.
Flash Gordon.
Not a whole lot to D, but he's a heck of a ball player.
He had one heck of a season a year ago. He won the Gold Glove at second base last year in the National League. 2-2 pitch. Grounded towards first. That's a fair ball. Tommy Joseph has it and wins the race to the bag. He had to go 8 feet.
What do you do? Go to the right? Keep to the right or keep to the left? That's tough.
I think Tommy Joseph would have won that battle. We saw one last night with Ryan Howard and Adam Morgan. This time, Tommy Joseph says, I got it. Steps on it with his right foot and has the out recorded. That's the third out. Go to the bottom of the third, 7-0 Phillies. Is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Lottery's new instant game, Million in an Instant. Players must be 18 or older. Please play responsibly. By McDonald's, mix and match any two for just $2.50 on McDonald's McPick 2 menu, and by your local Ford stores. 7-0 Phils. It's been all Phillies tonight here in South Philadelphia. 7 hits for the Phils. The Marlins just won. We mentioned Jose Ureña's night is over, and Justin Nicolino's is just getting started. He comes into his 15th game of the year, 3-6 with an ERA of 5.33 for the left-hander. So the Phillies able to chase the Marlins starter early in this one. Nicolino, the left-hander, will face Aaron Altair, who struck out in his first at bat. It'll be Altair, Ellis, and Hellickson for the Phils here in the bottom of the third. First pitch to Altair is over for a strike.
Well, Ben, what do you make of Altair's struggle over the last month?
When he first came up, or got off the disabled list, I should say, this year, he was using the whole field. A lot of hits, a couple home runs to right field, right center. It just seems like he's getting away from that, coming out and around the ball, much like he did just right now. And he's trying to prove himself. There's a lot of pressure on him. You know, the Phillies want him to be that guy. He himself wants him to be the everyday outfielder. Just whether or not he can hit on a daily basis here in the big leagues.
He certainly could play the outfield, that we know. But you're right. Management has said that he's going to need to hit some more. That job's going to be his in the year 2017, but he'll be given that chance. First pitch to A.J. Ellis is over for a strike. Ellis, of course, delivered the big blow back in the first inning. Bases clearing double, 3 RBIs. Third game this year that Ellis has had 3 RBI. Sails outside. It's 1-1.
You know, back to Altair. I mean, he seems like a young man that, you know, does have a lot on his mind. I don't know. He seems like he would, a guy like me. You know, I would tend to put a lot of pressure on myself, and I tend to try to make too much out of every swing and try to be too perfect all the time. Sometimes, like, the manager or a hitting coach or somebody coming to you and say, Aaron, I want you to relax. Don't worry about a thing. We're putting you in the 6th hole. You're going to play the rest of the year. You are left fielder, or you're going to play in one of the 3 outfield spots every day. Take the pressure off yourself, man. Don't worry about a thing. Because I would think, looking at him, that he's a 5-tool player, and he's got to definitely be in their plans next year. So you get him up there and get him relaxed. You got a guy that's going to light up the other teams in the league.
AJ pops that one straight up in the infield. Martin Prado makes the call and puts it away for the 2nd out of the inning.
That was a high one.
Yeah, it was. I think Martin Prado scared Rojas a little bit.
Yeah, it's not easy, Aaron Altera, but if he does relax, but he also realized that, if he does relax and he'll do it and he still doesn't put up the numbers, that's where I think some of the doubt starts to creep in. And can I play here? Can I be consistent and put up numbers here in the big leagues? There is a fine line, though.
Well, that's why managers could be psychologists, probably more than nuts and bolts guys.
Yeah.
What will make a young player relax and start to go toward his potential as a major league player and not regress?
Definitely having a manager that backs you and believes in you. That's part of it.
Baseball's a tough game. I mean, if you have to prove yourself every day, it's going to be really hard.
On the inside corner, a called 3rd strike. So Jeremy Hellickson goes down swinging, or goes down looking this time. 2nd strikeout for him, but he's got a comfortable lead as we head to the 4th inning. The Phils are up by 7. Everyday business printing made from 100% sustainable pulp and high-quality fibers that allow for a smooth surface and no jam copying and printing. Order by 11:30. Get the same-day delivery from who but WB Mason. We're through 3, and Phillies fans, well, they're enjoying the ballpark fare and enjoying a 7-0 lead as well. And so many people who work so hard to keep this ballpark running each and every night during the summer. And, well, 2 of our ballpark engineers guys are celebrating birthdays today. We want to wish Dave Abramson and Martin Otremski happy birthday from all of us. And thanks for all you guys do. Hope you're enjoying your day. 2 of our ballpark engineers here at Citizens Bank Park. It's also time for our Geico quote of the day. And this was Chris Johnson. And Ben, I know you'll get a kick out of this because Ichiro's your buddy. But Chris Johnson says of Ichiro Suzuki, I have never seen anyone have a bat with them on the bus. He's always swinging. It's awesome. And I know you've told that story before. He just carries it with him, right?
He does. He sure does.
Seems to be working for him.
It's the same bat he's had since day one.
It's
Well,
like
why not?
It's like a prop.
No, he carries it everywhere.
That's what I mean. It's like
like a cane.
like a ring
Yeah.
or a watch.
Yeah. He's always thinking about hitting.
cane.
Yeah.
That's right. So you kind of
Or
lean on it
shillelagh,
every
right,
now-
Murph?
It's a shillelagh.
A good shillelagh.
You can lean on it. You can ward off muggers, right?
Perhaps.
It's an M51.
Start a barroom brawl.
There you go.
Or collect 3,024 hits.
Have you got right?
Whatever you fancy.
You guys ever seen Ray Donovan?
I have
He
seen Ray
pulls a
Donovan.
bat out of his trunk.
Yeah,
He
I have
means
seen
business.
that. Yep. I don't want to mess with Ray Donovan. He's one of the angry one of our Brewers. One is inside for a ball. It's 1-1 to Ichiro Suzuki, who popped out to third base in his first at bat.
You guys will be teammates in about 6 years.
And you're talking about in Cooperstown?
Yes.
That's if Ichiro decides to hang it up
Very true.
anytime soon. 1-1 pitch. Inside and low for a ball. It's 2-1. Says he wants to play till he's 50, right?
Down to see him today, and it was 4:45. I was talking to Jeff Frank Corner. I said, "Where's Ichi?" He goes, "Yeah, he's not here yet."
So he doesn't ride the bus.
No, but the Marlins did not hit today, so he would have been here a little bit earlier.
I wonder what the cab driver thinks when the dude gets in the cab with a bat.
The bat.
Keeps his bat in a humidor.
Pops that one foul. It's 2-2 now.
Now, does he travel with an entourage to the park?
He's had a really the same folks that when he came over to Seattle. 2001 was his first year, but it's really the same folks. I've seen them all around the ballpark the last couple days. Same reporters.
I got to grow some of those pointy sideburns.
Gets out of the way of that one. It's 3-2 now.
Always
There you go.
styling.
Ichi burns.
Ichi burns. I think you've just coined a phrase, Mike. Here's the 3-2 pitch. Ground ball towards first. Tommy Joseph gathers it. He'll take it himself. Unassisted 3 for the putout.
I think Spock had those, didn't he? Don't you know?
I think he had something similar. Well, he had
He had
pointy,
pointy
ears.
ears.
Yeah, he had pointy ears.
Oh,
Not much
you're
of
right.
a Trekkie, but
Pointy something, man.
that is the 7th ground ball out for Jeremy Hellickson, which is always a good sign. There's some of the folks who are getting some pictures of Ichiro, the future Hall of Famer for sure. We showed that shot last night where we cut from different section to different section when he was up last night, and everybody was taking pictures of Ichiro Suzuki. Martin Prado is the batter now for the Marlins. He was hit by a pitch in his first at bat. First pitch to him is over for a strike. Swings through that. It's 0-2 now to Martin Prado.
Well, what I like about Prado is something I try to teach all the time. Is that kind of descending blow to the ball that perfectly, he creates a perfectly level swing through all planes of baseball. You watch him take his practice swing. Watch. He is going to swing down on the ball. God, it creates a lot of ground balls and line drives, which is why his batting average is where it is.
Mm-hmm. 1-2 pitch. It's a little bit low for a ball. It's 2-2. Came into the game batting .341 on the road. It's their best in baseball.
You know, it's one thing to take practice swings like that. It's another thing when the pitcher delivers a ball to you to do it when it matters.
2-2 pitch. Ground ball through the
that?
hole.
How many times did you see that last night? Yeah.
Yep.
No lift at all with the ball. He's just going to sting a ground ball or line drive. And take the results.
Well, Carson Wentz and the Eagles are on Monday Night Football. Get ready for the Eagles showdown in the Windy City for the Bears as Derek Gunn and Reuben Frank are live from Soldier Field. Don't miss a special game day edition of Quick Slants. It's Monday night at 6 right here on CSN. Enjoy some baseball tomorrow and some football on Monday night. As Christian Yelich steps in, runner on first is Martin Prado. He has a small lead, and first pitch to Yelich is on the outside corner for a strike. Yelich grounded into the double play that ended the first inning. One pitch, ground ball towards second again. Hernandez up with it, flips to Freddie Galvis over to Tommy Joseph, and there it is again. 4-6-3 to end the fourth inning. Christian Yelich grounds into yet another double play. 8 ground ball outs for Jeremy Hellickson, and he's cruising along as he's able to get the dangerous Christian Yelich ground into the inning double play. Toyota. Visit buyatoyota.com to find your RAV4 today. Toyota, let's go places. Let's go Phillies. Tony Luke's out there in Ashburn Alley. Nice crowd out there in Ashburn Alley tonight as the Phils enjoy a 7-0 lead over the Marlins. Top of the order as we start the bottom of the fourth. There's that crowd I was talking about. Why not? Beautiful night. First pitch to Cesar Hernandez is on the outside corner for a strike. It's 0-1. Hernandez 1 for 2, singled and scored in the first and grounded out in the second. And he swings and pops that one into center field. It's not deep. Christian Yelich has a beat on it, and that's the first out of the inning. Well, guys, all week we've been thanking members of our crew for the hard work that they do as we finish up the 2016 season. And look at Josh Schrager, who's our scorebug operator, and also, as we mentioned yesterday, a Harry Callis Award winner. And he got engaged this week as well. Congratulations to Josh and his fiance, and thank you for all the hard work you've done. That picture wasn't all that long ago, though. Josh is a pretty young guy. Yes. That was like 4 years ago or something. No, not 4. He's got those hands back. Nice job, Josh. Roman Quinn is the batter. 0-1. And he grounds that one softly to third. Prado barehands it. Throws across the diamond, but he's not going to get the speedy Quinn, who beats it out for an infield single. Martin Prado did everything he could, but no chance to get Roman Quinn.
Speed. I don't know. Maybe you let that one go if you're Prado. Maybe you had a chance that it would kick. It would take a left kick. No, maybe not. That's pretty far into the infield. That's just one of those hits that speed gets.
Speed gets you.
But that was a good play by Prado.
Yeah, nice
I mean, it was in his hand and out of his hand, and had something on at the first base, but yet it still wasn't even close.
And he hit it from the right side.
Yeah, to be able to run like that.
You remember when you could do that, right, Ben?
Sure.
Odubel Herrera takes the first pitch outside for a ball. It's 1-0.
Tell you what, I mean, look at these three guys lead 1, 2, 3 in his batting order. Some serious speed right here. Probably not speed like this on any team in baseball in a 1, 2, 3 hole.
It certainly does help as Roman Quinn takes his lead, and that one catches a piece of the outside corner. It's 1-1 to Odubel Herrera.
You know when you're having that bad dream, or you're trying to get away from somebody in your dream, or you're trying to get somewhere in a hurry and just feel like you're running quicksand? That's the way it was in real life.
I'm always
That's the way it was for me in real life.
I'm always trying to find my uniform or trying to find one of my shoes. I never can get on the field because I never can find the equipment.
Well, Roman Quinn is off and running, and that one is shot into the hole at shortstop, and a nice piece of hitting right there by Odubel Herrera. He has his second hit of the game, and the Phillies have runners on the corners.
Sure, a nice piece of hitting. Odubel's heating up a little bit right now. I'd like to see that smile on his face. There he goes. He knows the hit and run's on, and he knows the shortstop was vacated. I'll just hit that ground ball right over there. Boom. I'm gonna have a night.
And the reason the shortstop was covering because there was a fastball in, so they're thinking Odubel's going to end up pulling this pitch. Creeps out over the plate. Shortstop still covers. Odubel shoots it through that vacated hole.
Tommy Joseph will be the batter. He's 2 for 2 tonight. He singled, and he also has that 2-run home run in the second inning. Counted for runs number 6 and 7 for the Phils. He's got 2 on again. This time, steps in against the left-hander. First pitch is inside for a ball. It's 1-0.
Yeah, way on is. Do you think, Tommy? It looks to me like his bat is lower. He's holding it a little lower and a little bit behind his right shoulder more than he was. Now maybe I'm wrong, but it just kind of looks that way to me.
1-0 pitch on the outside corner for a strike. It's 1-1.
His hand business, it does look a little different, Mike. I would agree.
He's got that average over 250 now at 253. 20 home runs, 40 RBIs. And looking for some more as he fouls that one into the Marlins dugout. It's 1-2. Tommy Joseph.
Tommy make a little contact to the right spot here right now. He can really build on this night.
Joseph digs in the 1-2 pitch. The runner's off and going, and Odubel Herrera will have that base stolen easily. No throw. So he's over there at second now. And Tommy Joseph has 2 out there in scoring position as the Marlins will bring the infield in.
Nicolino must not have a very good move at all because Roman Quinn had a great jump. That one on Odubel not even contested.
2-2 pitch inside for a ball. It's 3-2.
That's a good take. I'm telling you, that's a hard pitch to take for a right-handed hitter. 2 strikes on him. You got to be confident seeing that ball well. Take a cutter / slider, whatever it was, just off the inside corner. Puts him in a little bit of a predicament right here with first base open, and he's got the big night going right now.
And the guy right behind him, though, Maikel Franco, also 2 hits tonight.
It's called the old rock and a hard place.
Nobody warming up in the Marlins bullpen, so this is Nicolino's inning. Here's the 3-2 pitch. Outside and high for a ball, so he walks him. Tommy Joseph is aboard for the 3rd straight time tonight. And the bases are loaded once again with Phillies.
Good at bat by Tommy. That 3-2 pitch was easy to lay off of, but that 2-2 pitch was a tough one.
So that'll bring up Maikel Franco, who doubled in his first at bat and scored, singled in his second at bat. 2 for 2 tonight. Bases are loaded. 1 out.
Trying to go back in there, Mike.
Well, you have to do something. You know, sooner or later you're going to have to throw it where he can swing it.
Nicolino from the stretch. 1-0 pitch, ground ball towards shortstop. Diving for it as Rojas flips to second for 1. Over to first, not in time, says the first base umpire Dale Scott. So nice job by Maikel Franco to get down the line. A run does score. And I think the Marlins might take a look at this.
Yes, I would agree. They're going to take a look at this. Nice play by their middleman there. I was curious about the slide. We may see it again. I know they were both kind of sitting there thinking about the slide. Here we go. No, I guess he doesn't.
I think he's in there.
Wow. Guess the slide was okay, and the safe call at first looks good too. RBI for Franco.
Like Maikel not to be looking at that ball at that point, rather looking straight down the line. We'll wait and see if the Marlins are going to review this or not.
I thought he was safe at first, but the slide is questionable.
Well, no review is coming, so that's the way it'll stand. The run is aboard, or is across, and it makes it 8-0 Phils. Runners at first and third now with 2 outs, and Freddie Galvis is the batter. First pitch to Freddie is over for a strike. The 0-1 pitch. A bit low for a ball. It's 1-1.
When Freddie took that, it almost looked like he was taking it all the way. That's a good sign. You're confident in your hitting. If looks like you have the take sign on when you take a pitch.
1-1 pitch. Ground ball towards shortstop. Rojas has it. He'll go the short way to second. And the inning is over. But not before the Phils are able to put another one on the board. They pad their lead. It's now 8-0 Phils as we head to the 5th. To get a chance to see some interleague play this year in 2016 here at Citizens Bank Park. The White Sox are coming to town on Tuesday at 7:05 and Wednesday at 7:05. A 2-game series before the Phils head back out on the road. And that's your chance. You can order your tickets now at Phillies.com. as we begin the 5th inning. And all Phillies tonight, as they have an 8-0 lead. Marcell Ozuna will be the first to face Jeremy Hellickson. Breaking ball's over for a strike. It's 0-1. Ozuna 0 for 1. Grounds that one to shortstop. Freddie Galvis out number 1 here in the 5th. Well, we've seen a little bit of everything from Jeremy Hellickson tonight, but always his changeup is one of his best pitches. It's been that way all season, but Leslie Goodell, it's not just the changeup helping Jeremy Hellickson, it's helping the rest of the guys on this team as well, it seems
yeah,
like.
Murph, now if they could just figure out how to replicate it. I was talking to Adam Morgan earlier, and he said just today he and Jared Eichhoff were talking about Hellickson's changeup, trying to figure out what he's thinking when he throws it. He said there's such a difference in keeping the ball speed down and that arm speed up. And he said they've yet to crack the code. I also talked to Mickey Morandini, who's seen plenty of good changeups throughout his playing career and coaching career. And he said Hellickson's changeup is among the best he's ever seen. Proof in that is the fact that he's been through the league so many times and guys still can't hit it. When I asked him where he ranks among guys who throw good changeups, he said, well, Greg Maddux, of course, is at the top of that list. But Hellickson's right there with the top few guys he's ever seen.
Well, he's got it working again tonight, and when he does have it working, he is effective. And, you know, guys, we talked about it right off the top of the broadcast tonight. He is one of those guys that the Phils brought in to not only be a part of their rotation, but to help the rest of the rotation. And he has done that, both on the field with what he's able to do and the way he goes about his business, and inside the clubhouse as well.
I saw Jared Eichhoff and Adam Morgan back behind in the tunnel today, and they were talking about the same thing. They said, and Adam was saying, Jared, you know how when you throw that good breaking ball, you have that same arm speed. It's almost like it's more violent than when you throw that good fastball. And they were talking about that changeup.
That one?
That one.
That one right there. 81 miles per hour, and no match for Justin Bour.
Bob Thor said earlier, guys, that's what he hopes these guys are doing, is paying attention, watching what he's doing. I mean, that's what you have a veteran pitcher on a team like this with a young staff for, right?
There it is, circle grip with the 3 fingers.
That's a great look at what Hellickson's able to do. You see the rotation on that baseball, and Bour is way out in front of that. And it's another strikeout for Jeremy Hellickson. So JT Realmuto will step in, and he fouls that one past the third base bag. It's 0-1 now to Realmuto. There you see the pitch usage for Hellickson. 44% fastball, then the changeup at 30%. He's mixed in the curveball and the cut fastball as well.
So he's down 6% with the fastball and up 5% with the changeup. That's how good it is this evening.
Just 56 pitches with 2 outs here in the 5th. It's a 1-1 count to JT Realmuto. It's inside for a ball, 2-1.
Hellickson does have uncanny control. As you're watching pitch, he's inside, outside, down the middle very few times, like that one.
He has just enough late movement where you get guys out in front, you get the ground balls. That's why we've seen him induce all these ground balls tonight.
And he's got a pretty good shortstop behind him. Freddie Galvis, 6'3", goes the putout. And the Phils are front running tonight. It's 8-0. minor league report, and it's a medical update on J.P. Crawford, the Phil's first-round pick back in 2013. He had arthroscopic surgery to remove a loose body from his left knee. Surgery was a success. See his numbers in 2016. Batted .250, 7 home runs, 43 RBIs. So that is the news on J.P. Crawford. They do expect that he will be ready to go for spring training. We certainly wish him well. Citizens Bank, the next time you have a question about money, don't keep it to yourself. Ask a Citizen. 8 runs, 9 hits for the Phils. No runs, 2 hits for the Marlins as we head to the bottom of the 5th. It'll be Aaron Altair, A.J. Ellis, and the pitcher spot, Jeremy Hellickson, here in the 5th. Aaron Altair 0 for 2 tonight. Takes that pitch outside for a ball. It's 1-0. Sails outside as well. It's 2-0 to Aaron Altair. The Toyota out-of-town scoreboard. Well, Baltimore and Tampa Bay. The AL East, Manny Machado, sac fly. Baltimore Orioles with a 2-1 lead in that ball game right now. That one is outside for a ball. It's 3-0 to Aaron Altair.
I think that AL East is going to go down to the last day.
Absolutely.
There is some thunder in that AL East. Big offensive numbers.
And only the Rays are out of it. Everybody else still very much part of the race. The outside corner for a strike, 3-1. Who do you like? Who's going to come out of the AL East?
Poppy, Big Poppy always seems to rise to the occasion. Things always go right for him.
Everything's coming up Poppy is what you're saying?
It does.
I don't disagree with that. I'm gonna hitch my wagon to those Orioles.
Okay.
We'll see. It will be fun. Wild card race in the National League should be fun as well. 3-2 pitch to Altair. He fights that one off. It's foul. She's a Patriots fan.
As am I.
I was just going by her hat. 3-2 pitch. It's low, ball 4. So Aaron Altair is aboard for the first time. He walks. That'll bring up A.J. Ellis. Well, let's take some time to thank Ryan Hoover, one of our replay operators. Back in 2001, he was bringing the lumber, or the aluminum in this case, was Ryan Hoover. That little nice stride on that swing. Thank Ryan for all his hard work all season long. As A.J. Ellis steps in, first pitch to him is over for a strike. It's 0-1. He had the 3-run double in the first at Ellis. He's got a runner on with Aaron Altair takes his lead off first here in the bottom of the 5th. Nobody out. It's inside for a ball. It's 1-1. How about this? This year with the Los Angeles Dodgers, he had 13 RBIs, did Ellis, in 53 games played. With the Phillies, 8 RBIs in 8 games played. It's an uptick in production for A.J. Ellis. Altair leads off first, and that's a bloop over the shortstop's head. Nope, Rojas able to reach up and pull that one in. Altair has to head on back to first, so that's the first out.
A couple bases loaded doubles will do that for
right
for Ellis.
Big game in New York.
Yep,
right?
exactly.
So that'll bring up Jeremy Hellickson, getting his 3rd at bat already in this game. He's 0 for 2 with the 2 strikeouts. The Phillies will take that if he keeps pitching the way he has pitched tonight. Thinks about bunting. Lets that one go outside for a ball. It's 1-0.
Yeah, I would think, you know, pitcher wouldn't be swinging away here out of respect for the opposition. I think the bunt here is okay.
And that time he does swing away, and that's a line drive into left field for a base hit. Ozuna cuts it off, and Altherr will move up to second.
Well, I would say that the reason I said that was I figured if he's bunting, they don't want him on the base path with this, you know, with the big lead.
I don't think you could predict that he's going to hit a line drive to left field in that scenario. Right
I've
there.
generally been wrong most of the game here. So everything I predicted.
It's a pretty nice swing. He pulled his hands in and drove that ball to left field.
Say it again. We have some pitchers that are really good athletes on this team.
So with one out, Cesar Hernandez is 1 for 3 tonight. Step in with runners on first and second. First pitch to Cesar, swing and a miss. Cesar batting .289 on the season. His tops on the Phils. And hits that one into the hole between the third baseman and the shortstop. Altherr is going to stop right there at third. As Juan Samuel says, drop the anchor, so the Phils have them loaded now. And they'll go station to station at this point, it appears.
Safety first right now. With Altherr, probably no reason to create a close play at home plate with one out. We'll park here at third base and see what Roman Quinn can do.
Well, Roman Quinn will have to wait because Don Mattingly is going out to have a conversation with Justin Nicolino, and he's going to take the baseball. So we've got a pitching change. When we come back, Roman Quinn will be up with the bases loaded. Phils with a commanding 8-0 lead. Versus the Mets, it's the final game of the season. Fan Appreciation Day, our chance to say thank you to the fans for a season well done. All fans receive a Phillies Fathead with a 2017 Phillies schedule. We plan for plenty of prizes and surprises on that day. Make sure you come on out. It could also be a special day for Ryan Howard. Keep that in mind. Order now your tickets at Phillies.com. Pitching change here at Citizens Bank Park. The new pitcher, the right-hander for the Marlins, is Nick Whitgren. See his numbers: 4-3, 3.26 ERA, only 9 walks to 40 strikeouts. He's allowed 6 home runs so far this year. And he'll come in to face Roman Quinn. 1 out, bases loaded for the Phils. Hernandez at first, Hellickson at second, Altherr over there at third. First pitch to Roman Quinn is outside for a ball. It's 1-0. strike. 1-1 now to Roman Quinn.
I took a big hack at that thing up here.
From here.
A mental swing, baby.
You hit it pretty far too, I think.
Is that number 549?
No.
1-1 pitch. That's over the outside corner for a strike.
Those shall not pass with the bases loaded right there.
1-2 now to Roman Quinn. From the belt. 1-2 pitch. Side and low for a ball. It's 2-2. There's Aaron Altera over at third. Helix at second. And Cesar Hernandez at first. Two pitch. Inside. 3-2 now to Roman Quinn.
Well, he's worked the count full, which is good, but for the life of me, I'd have to ask him if I was hitting coach after the game, what could he possibly have been thinking with a 1-0 and a 1-1 fastball right down the middle.
Swings through that one, so Whitgren gets the strikeout for the second out of the inning. That was a big one for the Marlins, and that'll bring up Odubel Herrera with 2 outs, and the bases still loaded here in the 5th.
I think that's just a typical case of a young player coming up and maybe outthinking himself.
Or not thinking.
Or not thinking.
Well, Odubel's had a good night. 2 hits. Takes that one over for a strike. He's been on base all 3 times.
I think a good hitter would have a bases loaded plan. A man on third and 1 out plan. Something you're comfortable with, something that works for you. Of course, you know, I mean, he would have to been a plan that he had in the minor leagues because he's only been in the big leagues a short time. But some guys like to take the first pitch. Some guys like to take a strike. Some guys that don't mind having 2 strikes on them with the bases loaded. I hated having 2 strikes on me with the bases loaded.
Well, Odubel's got 2 strikes on him with the bases loaded. So 2. Nick Whitgren has stranded 21 of 26 inherited runners. He's looking to add to that right here. The 0-2 pitch is fisted out of play. Foul ball.
Well, I like that. Odubel has now hit the ball the opposite way. He's hit it up the middle. He's hit the ball hard 3 times. And he got jammed on that 2-strike pitch right there, which means he's still thinking that same thing. Keep the ball in the middle of the field.
Whitgren gets his sign from Real Muto. 0-2 pitch. Inside and low for a ball. It's 1-2.
Some good peeps right there, as they say.
Showed Odubel's numbers in his career with the bases loaded. Looking for his first hit in this situation. It's hard to believe.
It is.
1-2 pitch. Over for a called 3rd strike. So Nick Whitgren was asked to get 2 outs with the bases loaded, and he did just that, striking out Roman Quinn and Odubel Herrera this time looking. But the Phillies with a comfortable 8-0 lead.
week is continuing to establish himself as one of the top offensive second basemen in the league. Coming into the homestand, Cesar was leading the NL in bunt hits and triples, while ranking among league leaders in infield hits, 4-hit games, and singles. Since the middle of June, Hernandez has batted well above 300, and his on-base percentage has been in the 400s. Off a road trip where he batted .393, the Phillies spark plug looks to keep it rolling. And it's brought to you by Independence Blue Cross. Live fearless.
Cesar Hernandez has another 2 hits tonight as the Fanatic goes deep, shooting hot dogs to, well, to his buddies in the Galapagos gang. Oh, well, Calvin couldn't catch that one, and one ended up in the alley out there, Ashburn Alley. Everybody enjoying tonight. The Phils with a very comfortable 8-0 lead. Jeremy Hellickson back out there on the hill. He has been very good tonight. Lots of ground ball outs and very comfortable. He's had 3 separate 1-2-3 innings against this Marlins lineup. All under the watchful eye of a full moon here at Citizens Bank Park.
I saw that full moon last night. There it is.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the monitor, but I was wondering where.
It's over our right shoulder.
Over behind
we can't
it.
see it. Yeah.
That is one of the biggest. Is it the same size as when it's full every time? I was got to say, that's one of the biggest full moons I've ever seen.
I think it's a little closer this time of year. I think that's what it is.
That could be. That's my point.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
And if you'd have said, no, Mike, the moon is always the same size.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. Yeah. But someone took a bite out of that one.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Yeah. Well, Miguel Rojas will step in, and his team trailing 8-0 here in the 6th. He takes that first pitch from Hellickson over for a strike.
Don't you love when you got an 8-0 lead and the guy pumps strike 1 in there every time?
Absolutely. Rojas 0 for 1. He grounded out back in the 3rd inning. Pulls that one foul, so it's quickly 0-2 to Miguel Rojas.
And Jeremy's not just doing it with a fastball. He's doing it with changeups and curveballs. A couple cutters here and there.
Well, if you're a little out in front of the fastball like that, you seem to be vulnerable to something off speed.
Well, you see what he's done. 5 innings, just 2 hits, no runs, strikeouts, no walks, and only 60 pitches tonight for Jeremy Hellickson. Pitch number 61, the 0-2 pitch is just a bit inside for a ball. It's 1-2. Chris Johnson has moved into the on-deck circle, so he will pinch hit for Nick Whitgren. That'll be the top of the order for the Marlins here in the 6th. Fouls that one back. Whitgren got his job done. He came in with the bases loaded, was able to get 2 strikeouts in his 2/3 of an inning. Another foul ball, so it remains 1-2 to Miguel Rojas. Got the start tonight over Echeverria, who has continued to struggle for the Marlins over there at shortstop. So Miguel Rojas has seen his playing time increase over the past couple of weeks.
Echeverria. He had 7 RBIs here, 1 game, 1 Sunday afternoon.
That was popped up, and that sounds like a question for Carl Graber. He's going to get all over that one. Roman Quinn takes a circuitous route, makes the play out there in left field for the first out of the inning. And don't forget, we've got the Phillies Newborn Club. You can welcome your newest little one into the world by signing them up to be a Phillies fan for life. Members receive personalized Phillies birth certificate, personalized Fan Vision birth announcement, 2016 Phillies pre-Walker sneakers, Phillies Rookie of the Year bib, and more. So join now at Phillies.com/newborn club.
That's a good idea.
That's a great idea. Lock him in early. That's just good parenting, to be honest with you. So Chris Johnson is the batter. 221 this season, 5 home runs, 23 RBIs. And the first pitch to Johnson is over for a strike. Six for 33 so far this season as a pinch hitter, and he fouls that one down the right field line. Out of play.
Well, man, that was he fouled that ball off. But I tell you, I don't think I've ever had a swing like that at a curve. A nasty curve, right? I mean, I know it was kind of broke down the middle, but that broke sharp, and he didn't move. What a beautiful swing he took at that pitch. He was a former contender for the batting title, correct?
Yes.
Atlanta Braves.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, and he got him. Tag applied by A.J. Ellis, and that is the second out of the inning and the third strikeout for Jeremy Hellickson here tonight. Just keeps on keeping on.
It's like a splitter. It's just straight down.
Yeah, not even close. So 2 outs, top of the order. D. Gordon is up. He singled and ground out in this one. He's 1 for 2. So I'll take you back, guys, to May 5th, 2013, and Denny Echeverria, 2 for 4, 1 home run. It was a grand slam. 3 other additional RBIs, 7 RBIs, Mike Schmidt, on that day in 2013. As D. Gordon hits that one back to Hellickson, who flips with his glove. And another 1, 2, 3 inning for Jeremy Hellickson.
That game stuck in my mind.
Yeah, that's good stuff. We'll be right back. It's 8-0 Phils. By your Delaware Valley Honda dealers. Hurry to your local Delaware Valley Honda dealer or visit DelValHondaDealers.com. By Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. And by WB Mason. You can't go wrong when you buy right. Bottom of the 6th. Phils with 8 runs on 11 hits. Shutting out the Marlins so far tonight. Looking to add a little bit more here in the bottom of the 6th. It'll be Tommy Joseph, Maikel Franco, and Freddie Galvis for the Phils, 4, 5, and 6. New pitcher, of course, for the Marlins as well. It's Brian Ellington coming into his 25th game of the year. He's 2-2 with an ERA of 1.80. Quite a number of changes for the Marlins. We'll get to them in just a minute as they've decided, Don Mattingly and his staff have decided to switch some things up. Not exactly going the way they would have hoped tonight. That first pitch is fouled back by Tommy Joseph.
Yeah, Ellington, a very big arm. Ozuna moves over to center. Scruggs in left. Talise at third, and Derek Dietrich into third base.
Well done, Ben Davis.
Oh, thank you, Greg.
Tommy Joseph swings through that one. It's 0-2 to Joseph, who homered earlier in this game. We mentioned that he is in this game because about an hour and a half before this game was about to start, about 5:30 tonight, we got word that Ryan Howard, who was originally in the starting lineup, is having some soreness in his knee. His knee is a little swollen, and they decided that they were going to keep him off of that tonight. Ryan was asked if he thought he could go tomorrow. That one is fouled out of play. And he said, well, we'll see. So no word yet whether or not Ryan will be able to go tomorrow night, or excuse me, tomorrow afternoon in the series finale against these Marlins. Pete Mackanin had said he'd like to play Ryan in all 3 of these games this weekend, give him a chance to play here at Citizens Bank. And once again, the final 3 games against the Mets here. So unable to go tonight is Ryan Howard. Tommy Joseph came in and picked him up with a 2-run home run. 0-2 pitch is fouled past Juan Samuel. So we'll hope that Ryan, pain in the swelling is minor, and he'll be able to get back out there tomorrow.
Those knees, all you got to do is get a little tweak, you know, a little step on them wrong or bend them the wrong way, and the body says, whoa, we're going to put a little Mother Nature's cast on you here so you can't move it. Put fluid in there and shut you down.
Yeah, I was trying to remember last night what maybe Ryan had done, you know, to maybe tweak that knee, and he had the diving play where he landed on his knees, diving to his right and then having to dive back to his left and tag the bag. Speculating, but perhaps that's when maybe he banged it a little bit at that point.
When that play was under review, he kind of walked in towards the grass on the infield and kind of put both his hands on his knees and kind of was like hanging over a little bit. I did notice that last night. He's gearing up for that 101, Mike.
Okay, if everything goes according to the Marlins plan, here comes a couple of nice sinkers on the inside corner. Right?
Well, good. We'll give Michael a chance to turn on one and drive it in the left field, right? The 0-1 pitch. That is outside for a ball 100 miles an hour, says the radar gun here. Brian Ellington getting up to triple digits, but it's 1-1 to Michael Franco. Pitch. Check swing. Did he go? No. Says Dale Scott.
You don't get many he didn't go calls from umpires anymore. It's so hard to get a check swing. And back when I played, I mean, I can't tell you how far I could go and still get a no, he didn't go call from the umpires. He tightened that up over the last 10 years.
From the stretch, 2-1 pitch. That one's driven to center field. Not deep, and Ozuna just moved over there and he'll make the play. So the second out for the Marlins here in the bottom of the 6th. Why not stop at the ice cream bar tonight? You know, that cold weather's coming, but it's not here yet. It's still,
look at that line.
Yeah. Wow. I was just thinking
good?
that.
Does that look good or what?
It does look pretty good. You think Frank?
Wow.
Think Frank's jealous?
I got to put that on there, Mike. It's just mean.
It is kind of mean. Allen is driven to left field. Scruggs going back on it. Got turned around at the warning track. Reaches out and makes the catch. Started back to his right. Had to turn to his left. Freddie Galvis gave it a bit of a ride, but he's able to pull it in. So easy inning for the Marlins. Phils go down 1-2-3, but they still lead it 8-0. Time now for your Delaware Valley Honda dealers game summary, and it has been all Phillies tonight. They got off to a quick start, scoring 5 in the first. A.J. Ellis had the big blow on that one, a 3-run bases loaded double. Jeremy Hellickson has been terrific tonight, 6 innings, 2 hits, no walks, and 3 strikeouts. Tommy Joseph also added a home run in that, and that's where we stand. It's 8-0 as we begin the top of the 7th. Ichiro Suzuki will step in for the Marlins. He's 0 for 2 tonight. He takes that first pitch over for a strike.
Over for a what, Murph?
Strike.
Shocker, right?
Yeah. And that's another strike. That's 0 and 2. Yeah, he just keeps pumping them in there, Ben.
It's
Each is trying to figure this guy out, right?
he is.
The 0-2 pitch. Swing and a miss, and it goes off the plate. A.J. Ellis is going to have to track it down and make the throw over to first to complete the strikeout, but he does just that. So Ichiro Suzuki chases one, goes down swinging. It's another strikeout for Jeremy Hellickson. It's time now for our Coors Cold Hard Fact, brought to you by Crisp Clean Coors Light. And it's about the starting pitchers. How about this? In September 3rd, the Phillies starting pitchers, their ERA is first at 2.12, and third, their opponent's batting average, 279. Whip, slugging, and average as well. And those numbers are only getting better tonight, fellas, as Jeremy Hellickson is into the 7th inning and pitching a gem here at Citizens Bank Park. So nice job by the starters since the beginning of September.
Back to Ichiro's at bat. Ben, you're an old teammate of his. You ever seen, I'm sure he has, but not too often he looks at bat on 3 pitches against a right-handed pitcher.
No, especially against against lefties occasionally.
Maybe a Randy Johnson or something like that.
But that was as bad as I've seen him look.
0-1 pitch to Derek Dietrich, who's just into the game. Sent over for a strike. It's 0-2. I thought he looked a little out of sorts last night, too, to be honest with you. When he came into the game late in the game and wasn't able to really get anything going last night. So Phils have done a nice job so far against him in this series. Not sure if we'll see him again tomorrow, if we'll see Giancarlo Stanton, as that one sails outside. Stanton still recovering from that groin injury, but they're working him back in slowly.
I'll never change his demeanor either. He just won't.
The 1-2 pitch to Dietrich is lined down the right field line, and that is a fair ball, and it's going to the corner. So Dietrich will get at least 2 out of this. He's thinking 3. Altair has it and gets it in quickly, and Dietrich will stop at second base. So it's a 1-out double for Dietrich here in the 7th. So that gives us an opportunity to get to our Jeep Stump the Fans trivia question answer. I asked you the question, who was the first Puerto Rican-born player to throw a no-hitter? I gave you a plethora of hints. He was a left-hander, by the way.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
That's all I got, and I'm wrong. Ben tells me I'm wrong already. Mike Cuellar.
Okay. Mike Cuellar.
Gotta admit, good guess.
That's a good guess.
I mentioned his name last night as he made a mound visit, but Johnny Snow, Juan Nieves.
Juan Nieves is correct.
Loved hearing him tell that story about how Robin Yount saved him. Saved him. Last out of the game against Eddie Murray. Right-handed Eddie Murray, obviously. Hit a ball in the right center field gap, and Robin Yount went over, and it's one Hall of Famer robbing the other.
Yeah, that's some good baseball right there. Yeah, it's the second youngest player ever to throw a no-hitter.
Yes.
Juan Nieves. Of course, he's the pitching coach here for the Miami Marlins. And as you pointed out, John Snow is his nickname.
Yes.
Makes a lot of sense. Well, log back on to Phillies.com to find out if you're the winner of a Phillies prize pack. We wish you well. 1-1 right now to Xavier Scruggs, who's into the game. Derek Dietrich is over there at second base after his double. 1 out here in the top of the 7th. All is quiet in the Phillies bullpen. And that one hit him off the elbow, nicked the elbow, so Scruggs is aboard. And the Marlins have 2 base runners now, 1 out here in the 7th.
Last night, Edubray Ramos got beaten on an 0-2 breaking ball down and in Dietrich. Of course, he hit that home run to tie the ball game up. tonight. Jeremy Hellickson, 1-2 count, same pitch, down and in, drives it down the right field line. This right off the elbow, right off the right hand of A.J. Ellis. And got to keep that hand.
By the way, that Dietrich home run last night was a heck of a swing at a low breaking ball.
It was.
It came at a very opportune time, D-time for the Marlins. So Marcell Ozuna moved over to center field, is stepping in, and his first pitch swinging, kicks that one off the end of the bat, and in comes the center fielder Odubel Herrera. Throws it back to second, not in time, but a nice play, covering a lot of ground out there is Odubel Herrera. That's the second out of the inning.
Ooh. We got lucky with a bad pitch right there. That was like a kind of a backup slider, belled high right over the middle of the plate.
And I think the big swing is what got Odubel Herrera, kind of caught him back. He didn't know how far this ball was going to be hit off the bat because of the big swing by Ozuna.
But he was able to recover for the second out, and that'll bring up Justin Bour. He's 0 for 2. Runners on first and second. Hellickson trying his work around a hit batsman and a double in this inning. 2 outs. First pitch outside for a ball. It's 1-0. Two-0 now to Justin Bour. Talise is on deck. He awaits his first at bat of the ball game after coming in for JT Realmuto. It's 2-0 to Bour. And hits that one on the ground to the right side. Cesar Hernandez is up with it. Fires over to Tommy Joseph, and that's the third out of the inning. So there's a double in the inning and a hit by a pitch, but no damage done by the Marlins. The Phillies continue to cruise as we head to the bottom of the 7th. Indeed here at Citizens Bank Park for the Phils as they go to work offensively here in the bottom of the 7th. Tomorrow, 1:35, it is the Budweiser Folds of Honor Day. Don't forget, you can come on in and get your Desert Camo t-shirt, free to all fans 21 and over. It's the last game between the Phillies and the Marlins this season. So come on out and get that t-shirt and enjoy a ball game here at Citizens Bank Park. You can order your tickets now at Phillies.com. So Aaron Altair will be the batter. He walked his last at bat. For a base hit. 0 for 2 tonight. It'll be Altair and Ellis. And then the pitcher spot, presumably Jeremy Hellickson will continue on in this one. Brian Ellington back out for his second inning of work for the Marlins. That one's fouled back. It's 1-1 to Aaron Altair.
I'm looking at, I was kind of quiet for a minute there, jotting down some potential starters from next year's ball club.
1-1 pitch, fouled straight back.
And I'll tell you what, there's some serious potential here. I mean, you know, Nola, Eichhoff, Velasquez, Hellickson, and then if you know, looking at Hellickson in the mix, Thompson, Morgan, Morton, Eflin, Asher. Who am I leaving out?
I think you've got them all covered, but yeah, that's 9 guys for 5 spots.
Right. That's good.
That's a great thing. 1-2 pitch is on the inside corner, called third strike. So Asher goes down looking, and Tomas Talis throws that ball out in the left field. You don't see that very often. You never know what you're going to get around baseball. That's why Leslie Goodell's here to tell us what's happening.
Yes, Murph, time for the T-Mobile greater coverage of baseball. A big setback for the Cleveland Indians. Carlos Carrasco has a fractured 5th metacarpal. That's the bone on his pitching hand below his pinky. Turns out he took a line drive off of the bat of Ian Kinsler just 2 pitches into the game today, and that is a big blow for the Cleveland Indians, who are closing in on that AL Central title. And yesterday, the Mets announced that Jacob deGrom would be making his return on Sunday against the Twins and get in 3 starts before the end of the season. Now it looks like his season is over. He was out shagging flies and felt something in that right elbow. Turns out he's got some nerve damage, the ulnar nerve. He will probably need season-ending surgery. So just when they thought they might have him, in the event that they get to the postseason, now he is likely done for the season.
Wow, what difference 24 hours makes. Yeah, you told us last night, Leslie, that it sounded like he was going to come back, and now done for the season. New York Mets, man, you know, every team has injuries, but I'll tell you what, I feel like they've been hit harder than anybody else this season.
They really have.
Especially to their pitching staff.
Yes.
So thank you, Leslie. All right, A.J. Ellis is up there for the Phils now. Count is 1-1. You see he's 1 for 3 tonight, but that one was a big one. Double back in the first inning that plated 3 runs for the Phils. 1-1 pitch, dialed back. So Aaron Altair struck out looking, and I don't know if you caught that, guys, but Tomas Talis stood up, fired the ball down to third, fired it half down into the left field corner.
Been there.
Did you ever do that?
Oh, yeah.
That's what I wanted to ask. You know, it's surprising it doesn't happen more often, to be quite honest with you. But it's funny to watch. Dark Dietrich didn't even attempt to try and catch it. Here's the 1-2 pitch. It's high.
One time I came up, threw it around, and I had a decent knuckleball, and I threw it down to Jeff Cirillo at third base, and he almost caught it with his teeth. We came in the dugout after it. He got on me. He let me have it.
Deservedly
Just
so.
wasn't expecting it. I thought it was a good idea at the time.
Yeah, it seemed like one.
Not really.
I've had a couple of those things in my life. 2-2 pitch in the dirt. It's 3-2. It seemed like a good idea at the time. Officer.
You just hear your parents in the back of your head. What were you thinking?
Yep.
Manny Trio, when you threw it around, used to throw the ball to me so hard. I would take my batting glove out of my back pocket, and I already had a batting glove inside my glove, but I'd take my other one out and just stick it in real quick to catch the ball when he threw it to me.
3-2 pitch. He walks him. A.J. Ellis is aboard with a free pass. See, now that's stuff that you never, ever heard of. You never knew that about you and Manny Trio. That's great stuff.
So I had in 2005, when I was rehabbing my elbow and my finger, Manny Trio was on the coaching staff in AAA with the White Sox, and obviously Juan Nieves. So
How about that?
Manny was, oh, what a beauty. He could throw some good BP now. Good BP.
One of my favorite players growing up was Manny Trio.
Most stylish second baseman you would ever see. Ever.
Smooth. That guy down there in the third base coaching box was similar. In terms
Remember how
of
Manny?
smoothness.
Yeah, I agree with you. But Manny used to catch a ground ball, and then kind of let the guy run and run and run, and then do that little you know, that little sidearm
right.
underhand shot over there.
Now, when you were playing with him, was he like a jokester, comedian? He was our first base
He
coach.
could be. Yeah, he
He was a
absolutely could
riot.
be. Yeah.
He would have us just rolling.
One pitch to Jeremy Hellickson's over for a strike. It's 1-2. 24,597 here tonight at Citizens Bank Park, and they all gave Jeremy Hellickson a nice round of applause as he was introduced at the plate tonight. Appreciating exactly what he's been able to do tonight out on the mound. 1-2 pitch. And that's over for a called third strike. So Hellickson goes down looking again. He'll head back to the dugout, and that'll bring up the top of the order in Cesar Hernandez. Hey, how about we say thanks to another member of our crew, Adam Height. He's our remote truck driver. You know, wherever we go, well, not wherever we go, but anywhere we can drive the truck, the production truck, to that spot, we like to bring our own truck. It's comfortable, you know what you're working with, the equipment that you have, and Adam is the guy that gets it there and gets it back home safely, gets himself home safely as well, and puts in a lot of hours, logs a lot of miles to help that 80,000-pound truck get from here to there.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
It's like just a matter of like unplugging it and taking off.
Yeah, well, it's probably a little more difficult than that. But for guys like us, we're like, yeah, just unplug it and bring it with you. You know, throw it in your suitcase. I don't know.
iPhone charger out there, and you
it's-
just pull it out and go.
That's pretty much it.
It's like Johnny in the movie Airplane when what's this going? He pulls it out, the whole
All the lights go
runway,
out.
the whole runway goes.
Just kidding.
Just kidding.
Yeah, you know, for the three simpletons up in the booth, that is how easy it is. But those guys certainly have it down to a science, and that truck rolls in.
Was that 110? It's just 110 and
Yep,
pull it out
that's
and
it.
go.
Yeah. I think it's just that two-pronger you stick in the wall. Adam, thank you for getting that truck where the crew needs it to be. So look forward to traveling again in 2017. I've just got word that Adam quit.
What's his
No, he did not.
What's his handle?
I'm sure he has a handle. It's 2-1 to Cesar Hernandez. That one's over for a strike. It's 2-2.
Well, I like this kid, Ellington.
Yeah, he can get
Anytime
it
he
up.
throw triple digits, but he's got the slider to go with it.
Yeah, we talked about the Marlins bullpen last night. I mean, the guys that we have seen consistently, you think about Bear Claw and you think about Whitgren and
Phelps.
some of the other, Phelps, they have been very, very good this year against the Phillies and even for the Marlins.
Excuse me, but is that a spread out stance? Check this out. Look how far he's
Cesar,
spread out.
yeah.
No.
It sails outside.
Two-strike
That's
approach.
not his normal stance.
No.
Look at this.
Not sure why he'd be changing anything. Swinging
Well,
about as good as anybody.
I think that's great if he's doing something now and knows this guy throws real hard. And
Okay.
He's going to just kind of shorten up with two strikes, but he's still down on the knob. But he doesn't normally stand that wide, does
No.
he?
There's the 3-2 pitch. The runner's off, and he swings through that one. And it's strike
97.
through. 97 miles an hour, and Cesar Hernandez is a strikeout victim. So Ryan Ellington getting the job done, but might be a little bit too late. Phillies lead by 8. Toyota. Tested, trusted Toyota. Toyota. Let's go places. By Jefferson. Call 1-800-JEFF now or visit jefferson.edu. And by Chevrolet. Visit your local dealer at chevydealer.com. Fanatic doing his thing up on the dugout here in the top of the 8th. Between innings. 8-0 Phils. Time now for our Hyundai Defensive Play of the Game, guys. Back in the 3rd inning. Well, it's your pitcher. Why not?
Why not?
Yeah, you know, no panic. Knocks it down. Former Gold Glove winner. Checks out. He knows the speed of the hitter. You can put double play toss right to first baseman. And that's your defensive play of the game. Brought to you by your local Hyundai dealers.
That it is. Hellickson's done a little bit of everything tonight. And it's certainly good to see, as we talked about at the top of the broadcast. Probably, if it all works out the way, you know, mathematically, the way you think it is, probably his last start here at Citizens Bank Park before the season's over. We'll probably get 2 more starts. Both of them will be on the road, most likely. So he is closing it out in fine fashion here in Philadelphia, is Jeremy Hellickson. Batter is Tomas Talis for the Marlins, and he lifts that one into center field, but Dubal Herrera is there. Makes the play. First out. And they're 2 of the Phil's hottest young prospects. Marshall Harris catches up with speedster Roman Quinn and backstop Jorge Alfaro. Don't miss a brand new Phillies clubhouse. It's Monday at 9:30 right here on CSN. A lot of excitement surrounding those 2 guys and many other youngsters that are already on this roster, and a couple of guys who are down in the minor leagues as well. Future is bright for the Phils. There's 1 out here in the 8th inning. It's 8-0 Phillies, and Miguel Rojas will step in. 0 for 2 tonight.
So Ben is showing me himself when he was like 11, 10, 12.
That was my son.
Oh, that's your son?
That was my son.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was you.
No, I can't deny him, though.
Got the leg kick. Now, who's he copying with that? Did you have a leg kick?
I did not. He messes around with it.
Yeah.
Big swing and a miss by Rojas. That's the photograph that you were showing?
Yeah.
Tag Davis. That one's over for a strike. It's 1-2.
And it's infuriating as a hitter because you look up at the radar gun, you're like, how is he doing it? He just pitches. You can see that the confidence that he exudes out on the mound. He trusts his stuff. He trusts that it's going to go where the catcher's mitt is.
1-2 pitch. That one's in the dirt, so it's 2-2.
It's the worst pitch he's thrown of the night.
Yeah.
You know what he is? We used to call him sneaky.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this guy's sneaky. Now, that sounds like a crazy description of a pitcher, but he has a nice slow windup.
Yep.
And he gets to the top. It's like, whoo, he's sneaky fast. So you got that in the back of your mind. You always got to be ready. You know, he's sneaky. And then he gets that same arm motion and throws that 88, 80, 84 mile an hour changeup. You jam yourself.
Just like that. 4-3. Hernandez to Joseph. Second out of the inning. Well, every time the Phillies retire the opposing team 1-2-3, Comcast will make a contribution to Phillies charities. Phillies baseball is brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. 1-2-3 innings have been plentiful tonight for Jeremy Hellickson. He's had 4 of them so far, counted correctly. Maybe 5. I think he's had 5 1-2-3 innings. Comcast's going to have to reach into their pockets tonight. 2 outs here in the top of the 8th, and Jeffrey Perez is the batter. Pinch hitter. Steps in from the left side and takes that sweeping breaking ball over for a strike. It's 0-1.
It's a fun night for a pitcher when he has an 8-run lead.
1-2 to Perez, who we saw debuted 15 days ago here with the Miami Marlins, the youngster.
But he hasn't changed his game plan. He's still using all his pitches. He's not, I have an 8-0 lead in the 8th. I'm just going to pump fastballs. And he's still sticking with that approach.
Swing and a miss, and he got him. So another strikeout for Jeremy Hellickson. That approach has worked all night long, and it continues to work as we head into the 9th inning. Jeremy Hellickson has been masterful tonight, and he's got an 8-0 lead and protecting it well. We head to the bottom of the 8th. Here's your chance of a lifetime. It's Phillies Fantasy Camp. 5 days, 4 nights from January 18th through the 22nd in beautiful Clearwater, Florida. Your package includes hotel, practice, and get instruction from baseball legends such as Commissioner Mickey Morandini, Greg the Bulazinski, Mike Lieberthal, just to name a few. Fantasy game versus the legends at Bright House Networks Field, personalized Phillies uniform, and so much more. See Phillies.com or call now for information, 610-520-3400. Hurry up, because that fills up quickly, does Phillies Fantasy Camp. Well, the Phils have an 8-0 lead, and everybody's having fun. Aaron Nola says, what's going on? What's on my hat? And he realizes now that he is the victim of the ever-popular bubble on the cap joke. It's fun to have an 8-0 lead, as you said, Mike. Aaron went around asking, did you do that? Did you do that? I think the first person he asked was Cody. Did you do that?
Aaron's going to be heading down to Clearwater on Wednesday.
That's right. Quinn fouls that one out of play. Yeah, he's going to start to get that arm back fired up. They're hoping to play some catch at first, then a little long toss, and then up on the mound. And then if all the timing works out, they're hoping that he can get into some games in instructional league play, and before this season is all said and done for him, I'd like him to get back out on the mound and face some live hitters in kind of a rehab situation, and then shut it down for the offseason as he works his way back from that sore elbow that he had that ended up costing him the rest of this season. So he's certainly in good spirits. I got a chance to talk to him about it the other day, and he's ready to start throwing again, that's for sure. 1-2 pitch to Roman Quinn. One out here in the bottom of the 8th.
Roman didn't waste any time swinging in that particular at-bat.
So Odubel Herrera will step to the plate. He's been on base 3 times tonight. A single and a double. Safe on a fielder's choice. He scored a couple of runs as well. Just watched his average creep up little by little. I was talking to Matt Stairs about I want to say maybe 10 days ago, and I said, yeah, you know, if he finishes the season around 285, I mean, you know, with the numbers that he has, it's a pretty solid season for Herrera. And Matt said, I don't know if he can get back up to 285. That was 7-8 points, and well, here he sits at 284. And, he's got a chance for sure. With about
I think we can get to 290 if we can get hot.
I think so too. Which is about, he finished the season last year at 297. I don't know if he can get quite there, but count is 0-1 to Odubel Herrera, and he swings through that. It's 0-2. Tommy Joseph waits on deck. Two pitches in the dirt. It's 1-2.
I wouldn't be surprised if Odubel told his teammates he was going deep in this at bat. Based on the way he acted those first two pitches.
He's calling his shot. 1-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. And he got him. So a strikeout for Nefi Ogando, and that's the second out of the inning here in the bottom of the 8th.
Strikeout and a long stare.
Yeah, I think these two know each other. Either from winter ball or that was a kind of looking back. Yeah, you got me, but I'm going to get you next time. Type of stare.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So that'll bring up Tommy Joseph, who's 2 for 3. It's single, the 2-run home run for Joseph tonight. There's Ryan Howard. Everybody's in a good mood when it's 8-0. First pitch to Joseph's over for a strike. 96 miles per hour.
Well, it's a good feeling, you know, even a better feeling to top off a night that he had right now by ending it with a nice line drive single or even a broken bat, anything, you know, just to get that third hit up there.
And he swings at that one and pops it up to right field. Ichiro Suzuki headed over towards the line, and he will run out of room.
Especially when you get two your first 2 times up.
Yeah. Well, he's going to have to grind for it now.
Behind the count, 0-2. 2 outs in the bottom of the 8th. There is no action in the Phillies bullpen, so Jeremy Hellickson will be back out in the top of the 9th inning to see if he can finish this one up. The 0-2 pitch outside for a ball. It's 1-2. One-two pitch, pops straight up. Going back on it is the shortstop, Rojas, and he makes the catch. So that's 3 outs to end the 8th inning. We'll head to the 9th inning. Phil's looking to close it out. Can Hellickson finish it up? Complete game shutout perhaps. Phil's lead at 8-0. Top of the ninth, Phillies lead at 8-0 over the Marlins, and time now for our WB Mason delivery of the game, all the way back to the first inning, guys.
First inning, bases loaded. A.J. Ellis looking for that fastball in that Mike and I were talking about. He went to it earlier in the inning. Professional hitter there, realizing the situation. That put the good guys up 5-0 at the time. That is your WB Mason delivery of the game.
Tommy Joseph added a 2-run homer after that, and another run as well. That's where we stand, 8-0. There's Jeremy Hellickson back out here in the top of the ninth. This is the longest scoreless start that he has had since April the 8th, 2012, versus the New York Yankees. He went 8 2/3 in that game, not allowing a run. He also had two career complete games. One of those a complete game shutout, both while he was with the Tampa Bay Rays. So looking to duplicate that tonight here in Philadelphia. He's going to face the top of the order of the Marlins. D. Gordon is in there at the count 1-1. Gordon is 1 for 3 on the evening. 1-1 pitch. Outside for a ball, 2-1.
I don't know. He's amazing to me. Like a surgeon out there. A little of this, a little of that, a little of this, a little of that.
Dissecting them.
Ground ball to shortstop. Freddie Galvis. 1 out.
Amazing how you have to hurry on a routine ground ball, isn't it?
He is quick, is D. Gordon, but Freddie Galvis is equally quick with that glove out there at shortstop. 15 2/3 consecutive innings without giving up an earned run. The numbers continue to pile up for Jeremy Hellickson. And if this is indeed his final start at Citizens Bank Park, which we assume it will be, it's certainly a nice way to go out for the 2016 season. And it's not to say he won't be back in 2017. Certainly the Phillies have made it well known that they would love to have him back as a guy in their rotation. So see how that plays out in the offseason. First pitch to Ichiro Suzuki is over for a strike.
Well, like you guys talked about earlier in the game, he would be a very strong mentor to these young guys on this pitching staff. A guy that throws so great of a repertoire of pitches and different grips and different speeds. Cannot be anything but a help to the likes of Thompson and Eflin and Asher, Eichhoff, Nola. Wow.
And he's you know, as you guys know, he's an extremely likable guy in the clubhouse, and just very easygoing and fun to be around. So brings a lot to the table.
He sure does.
And he's only 29 years old. He'll be 30 next season. He'll pitch when he's 30 next year. Count is 1-2 to Ichiro Suzuki. He's hitless tonight. 1-2 pitch. A little bit low. It's 2-2. That was his 100th pitch as we sit with 1 out in the 9th inning. 15 ground ball outs tonight for Jeremy Hellickson. Take a look. Toughest inning, 3rd inning, 14 pitches. 7th inning, 14 pitches. You're not going to see a line look much better than that.
4 times at 10 pitches.
Two pitch. Inside for a ball. It's 3-2.
Well, you just throw it right down the middle like it's a 3-2, like a 3-0 pitch here, right? And if he hits it hard, hope it's at somebody.
From the windup, the 3-2 pitch. And that's a ground ball right at Tommy Joseph. And he'll take it.
Refusing to give in. Little cutter there.
81.
Pitching.
There you see the numbers. 37% fastballs, 31% change, curveball at 20, cut fastball at 13. Everything's been working tonight for Jeremy Hellickson. So 2 outs, top of the 9th. 1 more out to go for a complete game shutout for the 29-year-old. Derek Dietrich doubled in his only at bat tonight. Takes that first pitch, he's swinging it, and it's 0-1.
Dietrich, the only guy that really, at least in the last 6 innings, it's squared a ball up to double down the right field line.
Yeah, I think about D. Gordon's first pitch swing of the game, base hit, was hit well, hit hard, and then the Dietrich double. That's about it. The 0-1 pitch. Low, ball one. It's 1-1. Hellickson has his sign. Here's the 1-1 pitch. Broken bat, and it's foul ball, so Michael Franco will pick that up. And Dietrich will go get a new piece of lumber. Don't forget, after the game, get an insider's perspective on the Phillies and Jeremy Hellickson's performance tonight. Former Phil Marlin Anderson is standing by on Cure Auto Insurance presents Phillies Postgame Live, following the final out right here on CSN.
If he were to get Dietrich here, that would be the 7th time out of 9 innings that he retired the order in 3 pitches. I mean, three batters, I'm sorry.
That's what I said. Comcast's going to have to dig it in their pockets,
Yeah.
make some contributions tonight.
It's funny, we haven't talked about that much. We're just kind of talking about how he's cruising through this game. He's only given up 3.
Yep. This is the 30th batter he's faced all night. Just the 30th. You see a couple double plays help that out.
Yeah, hasn't walked anybody tonight. So here's the 1-2 pitch from Jeremy Hellickson. Popped up. Who wants it? Michael Franco coming in. He says he's got it in foul territory, and he does indeed. And the fans are on their feet as they celebrate the 8-0 win. A complete game shutout for Jeremy Hellickson. He pitched a gem tonight. Had the Marlins hitters off balance all night long. And he goes the distance and gets the shutout. And congratulations from his teammates as they come in and do handshakes and some hugs as well. What a night for Jeremy Hellickson, guys.
Masterful. That's the only word that comes to mind. Masterful.
Yeah, you know what I liked a lot? Jeremy sees the entire bench brigade coming out there, and the first thing he does, though, is go to the guys that played in the game, played defense. And now he's getting hugs from from all his pitching buddies and the guys that didn't play in the game. They really appreciate that. It's well deserved. His 30th start, right?
30th start of the season. As we mentioned, his 3rd career complete game. His last one came back in 2011, both while he was with Tampa Bay. His 2nd complete game shutout as well. Of course, he is our Chevy player of the game. Let's look back and see what he was able to do. I mean, right out of the gate, you could tell that he had some pretty good stuff.
What he was able to do, I don't think there was really anything he couldn't do tonight. Continue to just pepper the strike zone. 23 of 30 first pitch strikes. He was just phenomenal. The changeup was ridiculous. Almost got to a point where he should have started telling the Marlin hitters it was coming down the zone. Everything down, down, down. We saw that the result with all the ground balls. 5 strikeouts, as you mentioned, Murph. 0 walks. Just a masterful performance by Jeremy Hellickson. Just the pitch in the out. Final out to Derek Dietrich. Pop up to Michael Franco in foul territory. And he is our player of the game. He is with our very own Leslie Goodell. Leslie, take it away.
Yes, his 2nd career complete game shutout. You gave up 4 hits in that one to Baltimore back in 2011. 3-hit complete game shutout. What's it like to have a game like this at this point in your career?
Man, it feels really good. Just 3 starts left. Just trying to go as deep as I can every time. And me and AJ were on the same page the whole night. And I got a lot of help with those double play balls early in the game to keep that pitch count down.
You had 23 of 30 first pitch strikes. You threw 32% changeups in this one, and that cutter to lefties late in the game seemed to make a difference for you as well. What was really the key among all of that?
You said it, just getting strike one. You know, then I had command of, you know, all 4 pitches. You know, I was able to throw a changeup, curveball behind the count. But the biggest thing was just getting ahead.
You're the veteran on this staff. You're trying to also show, just by being out there and having a game like this, these younger pitchers how to pitch. What do you hope they get out of watching you in a game like this?
I mean, you know, they've done a great job all year. You know, I learned as much from them as they learned from me, and you know, they work so hard to in between starts to go, you know, as deep as they can, and you know, give this team a chance to win every night, and it's just been a lot of fun watching all those guys every time out. 15
straight starts for this team, 3 earned runs or less among the starters. What has been working for everybody?
Just throwing a lot of strikes, getting ahead, getting some easy outs, and you know, getting a lot of help from the defense. You know, our defense is so good. If we can just, you know, like I said, get ahead and throw strikes, and you know, let them work, you know, we should be able to go 6-7 every time out.
Jeremy, thank you for your time. What a game by Jeremy Hellickson. Murph, back to you.
Second complete game shutout of his career. That was the 106th pitch of the night, and it ended up in the glove of Maikel Franco. And it ends up with an 8-0 win for the Phils. We'll be back to put a wrap on it after this.